Ready?
Just have John.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock, so we call this meeting to order for the Finance Committee. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kuzma?
Yes.
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Avery?
Here.
Commissioner Wayhill? Commissioner Ellenberg?
Here.
Okay, looking for a motion to pass the committee meetings of, I'm lost here, of March 8th.
Move the minutes.
Support.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We now take time for public comment to the committee. Anybody wishing to speak from the public to the committee, please step up to the podium, state your name and city of residence. Anybody?
Good morning. Do I get 2 minutes?
Yeah,
Or
2 minutes.
2?
The clock is up there.
Oh my name is Karen Miller. I'm the supervisor of Flint Township, and I have been the supervisor for about 14 and a half years. And so when you start, you really don't know what you're doing. And after 14 years, I've spent a lot of time working with Genesee County Road Commission. And I know you are faced with appointing 3 positions, 2 for the full time of 6 years for the full term, and 1 I think is a partial term. And I just wanted to remind you of 2 things, and you've probably heard this a million times. But on the webpage for Genesee County, under appointments for the Road Commission, this board many years ago passed a resolution to appoint people from townships. And I think the reason they did that logically was because our roads in townships are repaired and funded by Act 51. If you're a city or a village, you receive Act 51 dollars directly to the city or to the village, and it goes to your DPW department. Townships don't have a DPW department. They have the Road Commission and the Drain Commission. And our tax dollars from gas tax, registrations for your car and for driver's license, create the gas tax, create the funding for Act 51, and that goes to townships. And so I would encourage you to please appoint people from townships who live in townships and represent townships. And as you're appointing, I'd ask that you remember to, as far as qualifications, someone who's familiar with road funding, prior experience with road maintenance, a former township supervisor's preferred, managerial experience, municipal experience, a resident of township in Genesee County, understand the role of the Road Commission Board, someone passionate about improving county roads and bridges, a person who looks after the best interests of the Road Commission, a person who is fair-minded and treats all employees with respect, and a person experienced in serving on governmental boards. Thank you for your time this morning, and good luck.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public like to make a comment? Going twice, going 3 times. Public comment is now closed. Any communications? No. Old business, Sheriff, Resolution 23107. Yesterday, Commissioner Brown and we sat down with the city and the Sheriff's Office to discuss this issue, and the city wanted to do some corrections or changes to the contract, and they're supposed to have that to us later today. So my recommendations is that we just pass this on to the full board so that we don't lose any further time on this, and we'll be able to review that contract later today. So we need a motion to pass that through.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. New business, Clerk's Office. 1, approval of proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution reallocating funds between line items. The budget adjustment allows for the clerk register transition and staff development. No additional appropriation needed.
Move with the explanation.
Okay, support. Clerk, please.
So I'll be blunt, the office was left from my predecessor in quite a mess. Part of that was I think, lack of cooperation with our fiscal service in the budget creation process, leaving a lot of holes in our budget. But one of the things I think you've all realized in the transition, no matter who was the previous clerk and who the next clerk is, there are some document changes that need to happen. The biggest are our certified records, all have to have signature changes on those. So we've had a big shift in printing costs, that's where the transition side of that is, but also budget items that weren't there for us to be able to train our staff and do professional development. So where this money is coming from, this is nothing to do with the savings that we've already talked about from the reorganization. This is former salary dollars that were not allocated because we had so many vacant positions since the start of the fiscal year up until this point. We had over 7 current positions before the reorganization that were empty. So this is just a piece of the salary from all of those to readjust those to help get the clerk's office up to speed, functioning, our staff trained, all the transitions needed to be happening. On that note, I just want to also mention that a lot of changes are happening in the clerk's office. Some of them are quite simple changes. For example, now if you call the clerk's office, instead of a 8-minute automated message, you will hear a ring and somebody will answer the phone. If they don't answer the phone, there's a spot for you to leave a voicemail. These shouldn't be new and innovative things, but that's where we're at in getting our office up to speed. With some of the things we've done on the register side of things, we're trying to be innovative, we're trying to look at new standards, so much so that even though I've only been in the office for 14 weeks now, I've been recognized by the state and appointed to the State Electronic Recording Commission from the governor that sets standards across the state for Register of Deeds offices. So these are some of the innovative things that we're doing. This helps us to continue doing that work, and there's no cost from the general fund. Again, this is from unspent dollars already in our budget.
Does anybody have any questions for the clerk?
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing, you all said,
Yes, go for it.
okay, see, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. B, Community Corrections, approval of a request by Genesee County's Community Corrections to use $3,737 in ARPA funding to install 2 Polycam interactive video systems. This project, part of the Administration of Justice program, meets the requirements of funding per adopted board spending priorities. This is an ARPA-funded project. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, before you make a motion, could you move 1 and 2 together? It's for the same project. One is the purchase of the equipment and the other is the installation of the equipment. 2 different
Okay.
companies.
Move 1 and 2.
Support.
Okay, does anybody want a explanation?
Sure. I do.
Yeah.
So last year, we had some excess grant dollars from the state. We purchased 2 new video booths that would be located at the jail so that when we're doing those pre-arraignment interviews, we can do those remotely versus sending people into the jail. Oftentimes, community corrections would get bumped because they start running up against court times. So this provides 2 additional video opportunities for community corrections.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So last year we bought the booths, this is now for the equipment.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, is it always our practice to purchase the extended warranty along with these pieces of equipment? Do you know?
Typically well, no, I'm not gonna say it is or it isn't. There's probably no rhyme nor reason to why some choose to do it and some don't.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. B3, approval of the proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution allowing for the reallocation of expenditures within the community corrections budget. An explanation? Anything?
I can,
Just
if anybody
moving
has
things
any, yeah, I can answer any questions anybody has.
It's not a change to the budget, it's just moving line
No,
items.
yeah, there was a delay in some hiring this year, which, and then implementation of some projects. It just took us some time to get going on a couple of them. That freed up some dollars that we can use to train staff. That's the major major change there.
Did I get a motion?
Yep.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. C1, approval of a request to create, post, and fill positions in Genesee County's animal control and to provide funding. Second, could you explain this?
Yeah, so, earlier this year, we had a consultant come in and look at best practices and needs at our animal control shelter. There's been a little bit of turmoil there with transitioning staff, overcrowding. Part of that recommendation was for some additional staff people. So you know that we've been looking for a permanent veterinarian, which we expect will save us dollars over time. So that's in process right now. We had a volunteer coordinator that was a volunteer coordinator, social media overseer, and rescue and foster coordinator. We're looking to split those three positions. That one position into three positions. You know, our social media alone, we have over 30,000 followers on various social media platforms, and that's really one of our main drivers on moving animals in and out of the shelter. We have multiple foster and rescues that we deal with, which also is moving animals in and out of the shelter. And you know what's important about that rescue piece is if we've got an animal that's sick or is has high medical need, that cost, we can either bear that ourselves or we can work with the rescue to get that animal out and let them bear that cost. We need another vet tech, so we're a 7-day-a-week operation out there. One vet tech, trying to handle all of those medical needs when the vet isn't there, or being there when the vet is there. It's just not working with one vet tech. So asking to create these positions, asking for an appropriation from the general fund for this year and next year, and then start to wean ourselves off of that over the following 2 years when we are able to stabilize operations out there. I think that ultimately this will be a zero cost, but it's not going to be zero cost right now.
Okay, any dollar figure for right now?
I think this year was 280. Next year is maybe, because we're already halfway into the fiscal year. Next year will probably be just under 400,000, then wean it down from there until it's zero.
In 2 years, 3 years, wean it down.
3
The
years.
third year, you wean it
Yeah.
down.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Shoemaker?
Josh, what do you think that total's gonna be over that 3-year span? Because it's obviously coming out of the general fund.
Yeah, no, it is. 4, 5, 6.
That's about seven, which is.
Yeah, about 700,000. I mean, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they're all in the.
Like I said, just
Yeah, and it may not, ultimately may not be that much. It'll depend on what the millage is able to cover. I just want to make sure that we've got the money there to take care of it over those next 3 years as we transition.
do you think it could be more?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it depends on, no, not for this program. It won't be more.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I'll just comment that it did sound like the recommendations from this expert who came to talk to us about how to improve it. All the recommendations sounded really sound and like they were really needed in order to help the animals just be in a more peaceful place. One of the recommendations she suggested too was to have a code of conduct for volunteers, which is something that we don't have right now. So that's just an example of some of the many improvements in addition to these positions that will help facilitate better operations at the shelter.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. D, District Court 1, approval of a grant award from the Bureau of Justice Assistance in the amount of $750,000 to provide funding for the Genesee County Sobriety Court. This grant requires 25% matching funds, which are included in the current year's budget.
So moved.
Support.
Could we have, well, this is just a yearly thing, correct? Nobody here from the district court?
Yeah, she said.
Could you explain this a little bit? We have some new commissioners that really, probably don't know what sobriety court is and all that other stuff, if you could just.
So Genesee County's 67th District Court is Genesee County Sobriety Court, which is a program that allows participants in it that have multiple drinking and drivings on their record. Alcohol is an underlying issue. We've been in operation under grants for approximately the last 8 years. It's a very positive program. Our success rate is 80%, which is above the state average. And we were awarded a $750,000 grant over 4 years from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And it does require a 25% match. And what we are using for that 25% match is already budgeted wages and fringe for one of the probation officers. And we need a reallocation to the sobriety court federal grant budget in order to meet that match. And those wages and fringe have been in the budget for the last 7 to 8 years.
And what judge does this fall under right now?
It's Judge Jessica Hammond.
Okay.
Is the sobriety court judge. So our request is to reallocate funds to that budget.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name or your position.
Andrea Johnson, Deputy Court Administrator with 67th District Court.
Okay, Andrea. Can you tell me, I heard you say 80% success rate. What does that look like? How does it translate?
Well, it translates into people that we are able to successfully graduate from the program. So 20% are unsuccessful, do not complete it successfully, which could be for medical reasons, it could be for violations, it could be reoffend. But we get people through the program, 80%. Doesn't mean that they don't relapse or have issues and things like that, but we help to get them back up to be sober, to retain jobs, further their education, and they successfully complete.
Do you have any data on what the relapse rate is?
I do not have that right in front of me.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And if I
Can you
could.
provide that for us?
The relapse rate.
If I could continue, any commissioners that would like to, go in and sit, I recommend it, because it's kind of nice to go in and see what the programs actually do. And I've sat on this quite a few times and watched some of the cases, and some of them are super successful. Some of them is like you can see where they're starting to backslide, and they, and the rewards. I mean, it doesn't take much to pat somebody on the back and say, good job. I mean, their rewards are a candy bar. And you get people excited about winning a candy bar of accomplishment. So I recommend that you go to them. And if you can go to, the children's court, that Newblatt used to cover that, but I think it's someone else too. Go to those courts and sit in and see what these programs are doing. I recommend that. You'll come back feeling the importance of these committees. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes. E, physical services, 1, forwarding to receive and file a copy of the paid county bills for the weeks ending 2/26/23 and 3/5/23 in the total amount of $8,112,782.51.
Support.
Well, that's unfortunate, isn't it?
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. 2, approval of the fiscal year ending in 2022 deficit elimination plan and directing the Office of Physical Services to submit the plan to the state of Michigan.
Move it with the explanation.
Okay, I'll support it with an explanation. Crystal?
Morning.
Morning.
So attached to the board packet was the deficit elimination plan that will be submitted to the state, along with a budget amendment for the required transfer from general fund to G-card funds to cover that deficit. This is the last year of the 5-year plan. So 5 years ago, a plan was started with some assumptions built into cost savings as well as the 10% de minimis. They felt they could get enough cushion in there to cover that deficit within that 5-year span. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so we're gonna have to go ahead and transfer that money to cover the deficit and hopefully have a clean slate moving forward where if anything comes up, we'll be able to proactively respond to it with the GCAR team instead of looking at it in hindsight to see what happened with the budgets.
When we have these deficits plans, I mean, it's just like any of our own plans that we have. Wasn't there a payment required in that 5 years to finally, at the end of 5 years, to come to a zero?
So that is what this is doing. Yep, this is the last of the 5 years. So they gave us 5 years to try to do it on our own.
And we didn't.
Since that didn't happen, now the state's gonna want a copy of the transfer that's eliminating that deficit.
And whose job was it to kind of come up with, start paying it when we did have the first 5 years to do that?
Originally, that was the G-Card finance team was separate from the fiscal services office. So that team came up with that plan 5 years ago. And then supplied it to my office to submit to the state each year. So we're at the end of that 5 years, so now the only option is to do that transfer and provide that to the.
So really, there was never any that wasn't implemented, that 5 year?
No, not to get to that end of that 5 year zero deficit balance.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Crystal. G card, approval of a request to amend multiple resolutions to include additional account numbers. This amendment request is for Genesee County's Head Start programming.
So moved.
Support. G card, is Stephanie here or somebody to explain?
Stephanie's here.
Good morning.
Good morning. In a nutshell, we had two separate pots of ARPA dollars that we received. We've gone through, Crystal, say me if I'm wrong. We've gone through the first pot. We need to do this amendment to spend the second pot. Is that right?
Yeah, also Head Start, depending on the year of the program, they alternate fund numbers. So they may not know how much they're gonna use in the first year of the grant, so there's different account numbers for the second year that need to be used. So that's just adjusting those account numbers from those resolutions.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. H, information technology. 1, approval of a request to create posted.
We didn't do G.
Yeah, how could I miss that? G1, Health Department. Approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution allowing for various changes within the Health Department budget as described in the attached memo. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Is anybody here from the Health Department?
Yep, the deputy.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Michelle Estelle, the Deputy Health Officer at the Health Department. So we are asking to move money around because we have, we've received like a significant decrease in some of our COVID funds from 1.9 million to approximately 230-ish million now. In addition to that, we have several programs, well, at least 2 programs, Healthy Start, as well as our Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program, which like G-Card, they have 2 different funding accounts and they're actually on a different fiscal year. So we have to take the money from one, is it funding account?
Yes.
Funding source, and put it in another so that we can actually use the money, although it's one set amount just in 2, we get it at 2 different times of the year. The Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program is the same. In addition to that, this will come up on the Human Services as well. We've received a $200,000 increase from EGLE for things for mandatory programs that we have to do for the safe drinking water, under the Safe Drinking Water Act.
It's a you're just moderating or monitoring it.
Monitoring, testing, evaluation. We also we go and look at the installations of wells, type 2 wells, and yes, the long-term monitoring of known contamination sites. Typically things with wells, we also have the campgrounds that we have to monitor.
Any other
Just have
comments?
a question. Is the transition of the fiscal services coming, to Crystal, is that helping through the health department?
Yes, both, yeah, we're still in transition, still, figuring everything out, but some of it is definitely helping.
Okay.
But,
Alright.
we're still working on it, so.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Information Technology 1, approval of a request to create, post, and fill one IT trainer position at Genesee County's IT department. Mike, could you step up and explain?
This county's has a deficit in its capability, all around, but particularly for technology. This is a big missing for the department and for the county that has people. We hope to allow people to make the best use of the technology that's available today and discover new ones. This is about the idea that if we're gonna go digital, and we are going digital, that it's not just sort of a give that people just figure out, understand how to use that technology that's made available to them. We've gotta have someone coordinate it. Today, the way it's being done is, well, I ask the person next to me, how do I do this? And the person tells them, and they may get it right, they may get it wrong, and more often than not, they get it wrong. And so the ramification is that not just a decrease in productivity and capability, but often security related incidents where people do stuff that's just downright dangerous. We hope to make more use of technology so that we don't have to keep coming here and saying, hey, there's all these requirements we have to do, but we don't have the staff to do it. I mean, that's what technology is supposed to be about, is to reduce the number of circumstances people come here and say, I need more because I just can't handle the volume of work I'm doing. That's the process. That's the reason we're going digital, is to be able to do more with as much. I can't say less, but not more people. And that's why I'm asking for a trainer. We need to get better at how we use our technology.
So is this a request on funding, or is this, it's an increase in the funding to your department?
It is an increase, yes.
Yeah, how much, about 100,000?
Yeah, 115 a year.
115, yeah. Any questions or comments? Commissioner?
The job description, this is a brand new job description.
It is.
I'm just looking for the diversity, equity, inclusion clause in here.
We'll get that added if it's not in there. That
Okay.
might have been worked on before we started adding it.
Okay,
But before we post something, we check.
okay, thank you. I just wanna make sure that every job description that comes through from every department has, exposure or, someone that we hire someone who appreciates multicultural environments and has an appreciation for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That should be baked into every job description.
Yeah.
Any other, Mr. Shoemaker?
Thanks, Mike. This is less for Mike, more for us. Once again, we're dipping into our budget, the general fund for this. This is not funded obviously out of his budget. It's a new position being created, and not that it's not needed, I'm not saying he doesn't need it, but the fact is once again, where are the cuts gonna come from to fund these? And we never wanna, we don't wanna cut employees, but we keep adding employees. Where's the day come, or when's the day come that we do this? And I would encourage, I'm not a voting member of the finance committee, but do you have any ideas where we're gonna come up with this funding other than?
Well, no, I don't, Mr. Shoemaker, but I'm always open to ideas. And if you can search through the budget and find them, I'm open to it.
I'll give you them right now. I'll give you two real quick.
Okay?
Right off the top of your head. Actually, one that I'll think for sure. Let's start take-home cars.
Okay,
Let's eliminate take-home cars.
what else?
On top of it, guess what? We need to put more fuel efficient vehicles on the road. Our fuel bill went up from 200,000 a few years ago to 800,000. Guess what? If you can cut that cost in half, guess what you paid for 3 of his employees? Those are just off the top of my head. Crystal has been a great resource to me, providing me what we're over with. If you wanna have a talk with her, she's another brilliant individual to have ideas, but these are just two that I've pushed since I've been down here. Last time I think I talked to Crystal, she gave me a number 300,000 a year was what it was costing us for take-home cars.
I would have.
This was 2 years ago, we talked about
It's been
this.
a lot.
I know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I appreciate it.
Well, I think that, I'm open to discussing any of those ideas. In moving forward outside of this particular resolution, I would be open to you or anybody in conjunction to you to provide a list for us to consider and putting it on another agenda. And see if we can move forward to activate some of those cost savings. Would you be agreeable to that?
Commissioner Kuzma, I believe that you watch and generally want to watch every dollar. I'm glad to have you back on the board because I know you are. The problem is last time we brought these issues up, the previous boards did not have the stomach to do this because it affects people they know. But if we're gonna look at our employees and we're gonna ask them to take cuts, and we're gonna look at our retirees and ask them to try to adjust things, and we're not willing to do every single thing we can to, on our side, cut those costs, how do we look them in the face and say we're doing the best we can? So I know you are, and I'll be glad to get you that list. I'm just very frustrated because I keep seeing these things, and I know these departments need this staff, but we're not willing to cut the areas where there's no staff.
Well, we have to change things, but maybe that's something we could add to a workshop that I know we're gonna have in the near future, a discussion along those lines, but to move this along.
Yep, I thank you for
yeah.
letting me speak. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 2, approval of a request by Genesee County's IT department to travel to the National Association of Counties Annual Conference in Austin, Texas. Dates of travel are July 20 to 23 in 23. Total cost for travel not to exceed $5,580 to be paid from account 910.005. Mike, just explain.
This is a premier conference for county governments, and it's got a big IT track. We don't do a lot of travel in IT, not a lot of this kind of exposure to these kind of things, and this one's a pretty important one. It's got a dual benefit for us. It's not just that it's great IT, it's great how IT works in county government. So I view it as pretty important. In fact, it's the only, I think it's one of 3 travels we do for the entire year.
Okay. How many people is this for?
2 persons, myself and our CISO.
Okay. Did we do a
No
motion?
motion,
Yeah. Motion,
So
support. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Approval of agreement between Genesee County and Complete Corporate Solutions in the amount not to exceed $75,000 to provide for network engineer services. The cost of this agreement will be paid from account ending in 801.004. Could you explain, please?
sure. We have 3 very large vacancies in the department on the networking side. It's crushing us. These vacancies have been there for at least 8 months, 9 months. We're not getting any applicants. Not qualified, if any at all. So we started to get creative, and one of the ways to do it is to go to recruiting companies and doing the temp agency route, with an eye to hiring the person once they're here and you like them, which we did. And we found one agency, we went to a bunch of them, and said, give us your candidates. And so we picked the best one, and the person's here, except on a very short, limited basis. You love them. And the person wants to stay here. The caveat is that the agency, there's one of 2 ways to reimburse the agency. Either pay them a lump sum recruiting fee, headhunter fee, whatever you call that, or pay them the 6-month contract, and they'll take the cut off that. We went that route. it's the easiest thing to do. And so, the benefit for us is A, we get that person, and B, we get to try that person out and see if they're good, because you can terminate that anytime you want if you're not happy. This is a lifeline for us. These vacancies we have a department of 3 people now doing the work of many more. And the poor manager, he's great, but he's gonna get crushed. And this won't last long. And so we really need this help. The idea is this person, once this contract is over, it'll be another 4 months. We'll hire him hopefully on a permanent basis to fill that one vacancy.
Okay, well, I need a motion first.
Move it.
Support. Okay, any comments or questions? Basically, it's just a needed expense at this point in time due to.
It's an
Same.
alternative to paying salary, that's one or the other.
Thank you for thinking outside the box and trying to do something, because I know it's been a need for a while.
Thank you. Partnership with HR.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mike. Parks and Recreation, 1, approval of a grant award from the 2022 Keep America Beautiful Community Grant in the amount of $10,000 to provide for implementation of the MLK Junior Neighborhood Building Project.
Move it.
Support.
Okay, could I have an explanation? I know Barry's here.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is a improvement of the MLK garden that's on MLK just south of Pasadena. The garden is about a block south of Mural in Pasadena. And so this is just a way to improve that garden. It's on land bank property that they've leased.
Do they have a date when they're gonna do some of the work and stuff on that? Isn't it based on a volunteer project?
Yeah, well, no, they're gonna pay for some of it, but it's gonna be, later in the spring here when the weather gets a little better.
But that would be something that the community could get involved in volunteering?
Yeah.
Or is it just all, okay. Could you get the date for us when they might be doing that?
Sure.
Any other questions or comments to the director? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We don't have any other business that I know of, and I move to adjourn. We're adjourned.
Yeah, I remember that.
Commissioner Avery?
We'll begin our meeting for government ops. We'll start off with our roll call.
Commissioner Avery?
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker? Present. Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Kuzma?
Here.
Commissioner Ellenberg?
Here,
Okay, I'd like to move forward with the approval of minutes.
so moved.
Support.
Any questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next we have an opportunity for public comment. If we have anyone who would like to present a public comment to this committee, please come forward.
You could give your spiel again if
Going
you want to.
once? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I won't go up there, but probably should have said something at this meeting and not the last one, so Joe.
Okay, all right, so public comments is not closed. All right, no communications?
None.
Okay, no old business, new business, we have A1. Approval, animal control, approval of a grant award from 270 Foundation in the amount of $12,782.37 to provide the purchase of animal enrichment equipment and 2 public shot clinics.
Move.
Okay. Any discussions?
Does anybody know where the,
From animal control?
Who's at jury duty, the director is?
where the clinics are gonna be?
They were at the animal shelter.
Okay,
This is reimbursement, they already happened.
okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, for Chief Public Defender, these are all contract renewals for the attorneys there. It may make sense to move them all at once, but
Okay.
that's just my suggestion. Yes.
Yeah. So with those extensions, is everyone okay with all those being grouped?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, move it, yeah.
So we have a movement.
Support.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a general question. How much are we spending in total on the public defender department? I mean, not just these, but everything. How much is the budget for that?
You wanna know out of the general fund or the total budget?
The general fund.
I think it's 1.7.
I can find out.
Yeah, that's a static number that
Okay,
we are
well, you can get
required,
back to me later.
yeah, we're required to fund, and then everything else is through a grant from the state.
Okay. All right,
I
that's
think I
right.
have the county contribution. I think it's 1.7.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah, that's fine. The exact number, Crystal can hit me with later.
Okay. Any other field defender? Okay. All right, with that, we have a movement, support. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have C Sheriff, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Mount Morris Consolidated Schools in the amount of $182,122 to provide for 2 school resource officers. Revenue from this contract will be deposited to the account ending with 674.029. We have movement.
Support.
We have support. Any conversations?
Yeah, just in general, is this this is a renewal or a new contract with this municipality?
Sure.
Sir, we had one school resource officer there and they requested a second, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Work together, yes, sir.
Thank you, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Any, no other business?
Yeah, I do have
Okay.
something. So we met with the city of Flint yesterday about the Smith Village development, which is up there on North Saginaw Street. There's one piece of property within that development that is in our Brownfield plan that does not allow that property to be combined. Because they have to pay off, that property is pledged, the property taxes are pledged to paying off the Brownfield bond. They're asking that we remove that one property from the plan, which is probably over the lifetime of the plan expected to contribute, maybe $500 towards the $8 million that we owe on the bond. To do that, we have to reconstitute the Brownfield board, the authority, that's been dormant since we refinanced some bonds maybe 5 years ago. So you're gonna see a request from me to get at least a quorum of that board appointed, probably at the April meeting, so that they can then meet and discuss whether or not they wanna take that one lot out of the plan, so that they can finish about a $8 million, that's what's remaining on that project up there, which requires a combination of lots that presently cannot be combined. So we're gonna try to find 5 people who understand that process, that you can appoint to meet to take that lot out, and then they can continue being dormant for another 10 years.
All right,
So just FYI.
thank you for the update.
Yep.
Any other business? Okay, with that, this meeting is now adjourned at 9:44. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go right into the Human Services Committee meeting.
Yep, you just gotta turn the
It's on.
Cameras. Gotta see you, Charles.
Oh.
All right, we're good to go.
Oh,
You good now?
okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Winfrey,
Here.
Commissioner Lloyd, Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner Ellenberg.
Here.
All right. Approval of the minutes of February 22nd and March 8th.
So move.
Support.
Been properly moved and supported. Any discussion, changes or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Are there any public comments to this committee? Any public comments? No. All right, no communications, no old business, new business, G-card. Approval of a grant award from U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $860,347 to provide for cost of living allowance and quality improvement in Genesee County's Head Start and Early Head Start program.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Health Department. Approval of an agreement between Genesee County and Voices for Children in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to provide safe sleep outreach and education to law enforcement and foster care families. The cost of this agreement will be paid from account 2210-61700-801-
Move it.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Item 2, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy in an amount not to exceed $311,022 to provide water monitoring.
Move it with a question.
Support.
And properly moved. Your question, go ahead.
So this is what I was discussing earlier regarding, so this is to provide the services under the Safe Drinking Water Act. It is mandatory requirements. The state did admit to the health departments across the state that the program was originally underfunded. So they gave us an additional $200,000 to complete this. And this is a yearly grant that they give us to do these services. So again, it's for monitoring and testing of the water and long-term monitoring, type 2 wells, which could be, they could be in a park, they could be for a strip mall, some, also we have, in our campgrounds as well.
So is this testing for all of Genesee County, just not the Flint area? This doesn't really,
Yeah.
This doesn't connect to the
It's
water.
all of Genesee County but this is wells.
okay.
Well water.
And they do this
Drinking
on a random or like at request?
It's usually if somebody has a well that needs to go into a new home, if they have to do a replacement well, if a business has a well that needs to go in, they're required to do quarterly monitoring. So it would be chemicals at times, and then it would be, bacteriological monitoring as well. So they're required to do it at different times of the year. So we keep track of that. And if they have enforcement or they need to replace or test or do additional monitoring, keep track of that as well.
So if a resident did have well water, maybe it wasn't tasting quite right, they could contact to see and have it be tested?
They can actually submit to get their well water tested, and some people take advantage of that, but it depends on what it is. Sometimes it may taste right, but it may be something that's not harmful.
Okay.
But, for example, many areas in Genesee County have high arsenic, so that is like additional monitoring that we do, and if something is wrong, then you know, we work with the state to see what can be done or if something needs to be done.
All right.
But it particularly businesses is where we can actually truly do enforcement and make sure things are changed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, how long is the monitoring, you said long-term monitoring, how long is that?
So this is a yearly grant. They monitor it as long as it needs to be monitored. So these with the long-term monitoring, these are like known contamination sites already, like through the state, things like PFAS and,
But it's only for a 1-year period?
no, it's yearly, but this grant, they
It's
give
a
it to us
renewable
yearly.
grant.
It's renewable, yes.
Okay.
It comes every, I think it's a yearly grant. It might be a few more years than that, but it is something they give us, they have to give us to.
Okay.
To give their services.
Thanks.
Okay, any further
And
discussion?
it does pay for the staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. C, medical examiner, approval of modification number 4 of a contract between Genesee County and Hurley Medical Center in an annual amount not to exceed $42,600 to provide for the continued use of the Epic software system and scribe services. The term of this agreement is from May 18, 23 through May 18, 28. The cost for modification number 4 will be paid for from account ending in 933-000, $12,600 for Epic software, and $30,000 for scribe services. Move it. Support. Properly moved.
Can we
and
have a little bit of an explanation? He's here. I know we went through this epic when we first, with Hurley and when we did the transition to the new place. And with the scribe, we're all caught up. Because I remember at one time we hired new scribes to catch all the bills and get caught up.
So the bills are all caught up. Scribe really helps the doctor complete his reports in a timely fashion.
Okay.
So they follow the doctor around during autopsy. He dictates, they type it all into his report. When the time comes that all the testing comes back, he just has to review the testing, proofread his report, add a little bit, and then go ahead and certify it.
And that's what this funding's doing?
Correct.
And it's working good with her?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Any further discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. D, senior services. Approval of a contract between Genesee County and Family Service Agency in an amount not to exceed $248,360 to provide medical transportation and liaison services to eligible Genesee County seniors. The cost for this contract will be paid from account ending in 883-021. Move it.
Support.
And properly moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 2, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Family Service Agency in an amount not to exceed $107,005 to provide visually and hearing impaired services to eligible Genesee County seniors. The cost for this contract will be paid from account ending in 883-020.
Move it with a question.
Support.
Lynn, could you explain?
Good morning. At our last department head meeting, it was asked for departments to look at ways that we can better serve our visually impaired, hard of hearing, and Hispanic seniors or general population. So this is our attempt to refund the visually impaired program through the Family Service Agency that was primarily funded through United Way before. This is a way that we're not reinventing the wheel. They have the program already set and just really needs the funding to move forward. So we're excited at this opportunity. During this time, we're almost looking at this as like a 6-month trial. We will put this out for bid in the event that there are other organizations that could help. But for this 6 months, we're hoping that our FSA would be able to help us out with this community. And I also do have Brooke out here. She is the CEO of FSA, if any of you have any specific questions about the actual program.
So if I may, how are we gonna implement the hearing impaired, are we, you know, how are we gonna use it?
I have a program narrative I'm going to bring forward. So historically, this program was kind of all encompassing. We don't actually provide medical services for the hearing and visually impaired participants. The biggest component to it is a counseling therapy aspect of it, which is why we are looking to have an MSW lead that program, qualified MSW. And so some of the programs or the services that will be available through the programs. We have things that we implement as in terms of visually and hearing rehabilitation and independent living skills. So this would include like daily living skills, such as teaching them about personal hygiene, maintaining their spaces in a safe way, cooking classes, communication skills with a technology component, leisure time activities, low vision and low hearing skills for safety. We also provide services that cover orientation and mobility supports, training. We set goals with the clients so that it's very individualized for everybody. Self-management and referral services. So what this portion is, since we don't actually provide like the medical care for them, we can help organize that for them. If they're having difficulty with their insurance covering things like contacts, glasses, specialized glasses, hearing aids, we can connect the client with those services in the community to help them navigate that. We also, with us having an MSW running this program and helping these individuals, there's a consultation portion for the social work side of things. So what that means is the social worker will be engaging with other supports in the community. If they have a community mental health caseworker, if they have a DHS caseworker, we'll be coordinating with them to make sure that all of their services are full circle. Support groups, so a really big hit in the program over the last few decades that it's been implemented at the office has been the support groups, where we have multiple individuals who do attend the program for services. They can get together for support groups, kind of like group therapy, to talk about their recent visual loss, their recent hearing loss, things of that nature. And then we'll also have public education and outreach as a part of that program. So we're really big into finding local conferences, events, venues where we can talk about the program, talk about the services, and even if our program itself isn't a good fit, we have like a resource guide available to the public as a whole, where people can utilize that and seek services elsewhere. We can connect them with the right party for them. And then lastly, we have aids and appliances help. So again, we're not providing the medical care, we're not providing the actual equipment, so to speak, but we can help them, we can connect them with services. We do contract with other services and give them those things that they need.
So you already have a way to get the message out?
I'm sorry?
I said you already have a way to get the message out that this service is available to
yes, and this program at our office had been in place for at least 20 years. Leading up into COVID, United Way has had some funding shifts with how they receive their dollars that they disperse, and it's decreased quite a bit over the years. And so they were minimizing some of the programs that they were funding, and they kind of shifted what their goals were as far as what they were funding, and visually impaired didn't fall under categories for them anymore once they kind of did their own internal shifts. And we had a little bit of funding also from the Valley Area Agency on Aging, but when we lost the United Way funding, the VAAA funding wasn't enough to sustain the program moving forward. And when COVID hit as well, we couldn't service seniors face to face, so it was just kind of temporarily closed. Until we started having conversations with the Office of Senior Services to get it open and running again. And with that being said, to my point, we still almost weekly have people contacting our office wanting to get involved with this program, especially now that folks have more confidence and feel safer going to businesses for these services. And so we definitely have folks ready to go that want to participate in the program, but we also still have recent contacts for spreading the word of the program.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I, before you leave,
Yeah,
thank you,
no
thank you for coming in to explain this. Other than events, and you'd mentioned some other things as far as ways to get the word out to residents. My concern is most of these seniors that have these issues are generally shut-ins. They're not going out that often. They're not going to our senior centers. They might have a caseworker, that's assigned to them or something. Are there any other ways we can reach out, and Lynn, this might be you too, to these seniors and try to find them? I don't know if there's just so many, and you and I have talked about this before, we just can't get to it. I'm just trying to find a better way to actually reach them, because sounds like a great program and it's very effective. But how do we get those that don't go out? They may have human interaction every 2 weeks when they make a run to the grocery store, they have it delivered to their door and they're gone. So is there any other ideas of how to do that? Lynn, you gonna put it on your website or?
Yeah, we plan on putting it on their website. We're also going to work with G-Card and our home delivered meals clients to put an actual flyer that's delivered to them, as well as our in-home personal care and chore and respite clients. So we're gonna actually get flyers and information in those homes, and these are specifically for the people that do not go to senior centers that we would not be able to touch through the senior center newsletter. Although we will put them in the newsletter as well. We plan on really reaching the at-home population.
One other, and I'll stop after this. Is there a way to reach out to the hospitals? Because they get a lot of patients who don't have coverage, who are not, and they would know, obviously, and they would have them there because whoever's taking care of them would realize they obviously had a hearing issue or some sight issues or whatever else like that. So I just wondered, is there a way we could work with the hospitals also? Is that in your radar or something?
Yes, we actually have 2 social workers through our case management contract in 2 of the 3 large hospitals here in Flint. So we would certainly give that information to those social workers that work for the millage directly in the hospitals.
Fantastic, thank you.
And if I can just add on to that as well, our office, through another program, we actually contract with the Department of Health and Human Services, specifically Adult Protective Services, and they receive like a guide of everything that our office offers. So once this is actually, if it does get voted and approved, that would go on to our services that we provide. So Adult Protective Services in Genesee County will also be advertising this to the vulnerable seniors that they're encountering in the field.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Having personally gone through this with relatives and friends, just that flyer on Meals on Wheels is a great idea. That would have helped, my mother and some other people in the past. Because even though I'm a commissioner, I don't even know what's all out there. And but now, do you ever go into, my experience in going into these assisted livings homes and stuff is there's a tremendous need to help the visually impaired and hearing impaired. You go in there and all you do is hear a bunch of people, what, and yelling and screaming.
Yep.
And it is comical, for all of us, but they struggle, and a lot of times there's dementia and things there too. But I would think would be a great way to reach out to a lot of people in need. Because I've just, for the last 20-some years, I've witnessed that a lot with various people that I've gone to visit.
Thankfully, through the Commission on Aging, we have a partnership with the majority of the assisted livings in all over Genesee County, so we would certainly be able to get our information into all of those assisted livings.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
To what extent, first of all, Brooke, thank you for collaborating with the county. Collaborations really help us get more done in a more efficient way. My question is, to what extent are you working directly with the Communications Access Center so that they can tell you what the needs are and maybe help fit those needs to what your services provide?
Yeah, absolutely. We would be willing to absolutely work closely with them. Whatever, I know Lynn and I are gonna have more conversations too about obtainment of clients and making sure that like the word is getting out there and people who really, really need the service know about it and can actually come and utilize it. So we would definitely be working with the Communications Access Center to make sure that it, you know, we can trickle some folks through in that way as well. And to, I guess, both of your points as well, the program is also designed to send the social worker into folks' homes. So seniors are not all expected to find a means of transportation to make it to our office within our 9 to 5 hours. Our social worker actually would be able to go and implement services in individuals' homes as well. So that would be communicated with the Access Center as well, just to make it as accessible as we can.
So have you met Teresa Miracle?
I've not.
Okay. Before you leave, I'll give you her contact information.
That'd be wonderful.
Because several of the commissioners met with her about a month ago.
Okay.
And she articulated a lot of things that the deaf community had challenges with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's critical that you also have a conversation with her and Lynn as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe the three of you can talk to one another and help resolve some issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that conversation too, our office is directly across from the Michigan School of the Deaf.
Oh, okay.
And so I could see them right out my window. And so in the past, we've worked with them very closely too. And a lot of our program that we had built was actually in collaboration with them. Them telling, you know, identifying to us exactly what would make this a successful program and something that's actually useful for folks who have this disability. So I'll absolutely have a conversation with Ms. Miracle as well. Make sure that it's all encompassing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 3, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Communications Access Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in an amount not to exceed $7,500 to provide interpreter services to eligible Genesee County seniors. The cost of this contract will be paid from account ending in 883-022. Move it.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries, and this meeting is now adjourned.
That's it, folks.
Thanks for fixing it.
Okay, Josh.
Well, I got your email back, and so I haven't tried to sign on yet, but I'm gonna try to do that today. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I fun with that.
It's work, but it is what it is.
Well, I've done it before, so I'm used to